The year is 1925. A man sits in the most expensive suite at the Hôtel de Crillon in Paris.
Sitting across from him is one of the city's wealthiest scrap metal dealers. Between them lies a document,
Stamped with the official seal of the French government. The deal?
He isn't selling fake stocks. He isn't selling a Ponzi scheme. He is selling 7,000 tons of iron.
He is selling the Eiffel Tower. But the craziest part isn't that he tried to pull this off.
The craziest part is that he succeeded.
His name was Victor Lustig. The Secret Service called him the most talented counterfeiter who ever lived. Al Capone called him a friend. And history calls him the greatest con artist of the 20th century.
But before he could sell the Eiffel Tower,
He had to sell a box.
Victor Lustig was born in Hostine, Austria-Hungary, in 1890. Unlike most criminals born into poverty,
Lustig came from the upper middle class. He was educated. He was fluent in 5 languages.
But the classroom wasn't his stage. The casino was. By age 19, he was already a master of card manipulation.
But it was a brawl over a woman that gave him his most valuable asset.
a knife slash across the left side of his face. For most men, a scar like that would end a career in high society. For Lustig, it was perfect. It made him look dangerous, mysterious, like a count in exile.
He understood a fundamental rule of psychology. People don't trust perfection. They trust flawed authenticity.
The scar was his hook. And with this new persona, Count Victor Lustig set his sights on the richest hunting ground on Earth, the transatlantic ocean liners.
the roaring 20s.
Lustig's strategy was counterintuitive. He never approached a mark. He let them come to him.
He dressed impeccably. He declined initial invitations to play cards.
He acted like a bored aristocrat. Lustig wrote his own 10 commandments for con men. The first rule: be a patient listener.
He waited, he listened, and eventually the greedy would beg him to let them in on his secret.
And what a secret it was. And then they wait. 6 hours.
Why 6 hours? Because waiting kills suspicion. No con man would sit with you for 6 hours for a quick buck. Because waiting kills suspicion.
The boredom made it real. 6 hours later, Lustig turns the crank again. Out comes 2 identical $100 bills.
The mark takes them to the bank. The teller confirms both are real.
Because, of course, Lustig had simply loaded a second real bill into the box beforehand.
Greed does the rest. The businessman begs to buy the box.
All right, for old time's sake, a friendship price. $30,000 it is.
That's That's nearly $500,000 today.
Lustig takes the money and leaves the ship at the next port. The victim? He waits another 6 hours for the machine to print, only to find it spitting out blank paper.
With pockets full of cash, Lustig looked for a bigger challenge. He was done with small fish. He wanted a whale.
He looked to Paris, a city broken by war, a city in chaos. And there, he saw a rusting iron tower. Most people saw a monument.
Victor Lustig saw the biggest money box in the world.
To understand how someone could sell the Eiffel Tower, you have to understand Paris in recovering from World War.
The city was recovering from World War I. The economy was shaky.
It was built for the 1889 World's Fair and was only meant to stand for 20 years.
By 1925, it was rusting. It was expensive to maintain.
Many Parisians actually hated it, calling it a tragic street lamp.
The writer jokingly suggested it would be cheaper to tear it down.
If the public believed the tower was a burden, maybe, just maybe,
He didn't need a weapon, he needed a printer.
Lustig hired a professional forger to create official government stationery. He gave himself a new title, Deputy Director General of the Ministry of Posts and Telegraph.
A high-level con artist doesn't try to look like a movie star. He tries to look like a functionary.
Someone with power, but zero charisma. He sent invitations to the 5 biggest scrap metal dealers in Paris. The location? The Hôtel de Crillon. Why? Because that's where diplomats stayed. It added a layer of legitimacy that no office could match. He marked the invitations urgent and strictly confidential.
The businessmen arrived. They were nervous. The official started his performance.
He didn't pitch them hard. Instead, he complained. He complained about the budget. He complained about the rust. He complained about the massive structure. He told them the government had decided, in secret, to dismantle it.
And sell it for raw material. 7,000 tons of high-grade iron.
He watched their reactions. 4 of them were doubtful. They asked too many questions.
Andre was a newcomer. He had money, but he wasn't respected by the inner circle. Buying the tower would put him on the map.
That concludes our meeting, gentlemen. Andre, I need a word with you alone. Please step back inside.
But there was a problem. His wife was suspicious. She wondered why everything was so secretive. Why meet at a hotel? Why the rush?
He didn't use logic. He used the one thing every businessman understands perfectly. He asked for a bribe.
The bribe worked. By asking for money under the table, Lustig proved he was exactly what Poisson expected, a corrupt government official.
Poisson handed over a massive sum, 70,000 francs for the bribe, plus the funds for the purchase. In total, it was millions in today's money.
In exchange, Poisson received a worthless piece of paper,
A bill of sale for the Eiffel Tower.
A bill of sale for the Eiffel Tower.
Within an hour, Lustig was on a train bound for Vienna.
He sat in first class, lit a cigar, and watched Paris disappear into the distance.
He had just sold the national monument of France. Now, he waited for the explosion. But day one passed. Nothing. Day two, nothing. A week. Still nothing. Why?
Because Victor Lustig understood human ego better than anyone. When André Poisson went to the tower and realized he had...
He never reported the crime. Most criminals would take the win and retire. But Lustig? He was addicted to the game.
6 months later, realizing no one was looking for him, he did the unthinkable. He returned to Paris.
He was going to sell the Eiffel Tower again. But lightning rarely strikes twice.
This time, the Headleys did explode. Lustig caught wind of the betrayal just in time. He fled the hotel minutes before the detectives arrived, leaving behind his fake documents and the bill of sale. Europe was now too hot. He needed a new playground, a land of prohibition, gangsters, and unlimited opportunity. He boarded a ship to America. The Count was coming to the New World. And he had a new target in mind. Not a businessman, not a bank. He was going after the most dangerous man on the planet.
Al Capone.
Scamming a scrap dealer gets you money. Scamming the mafia gets you killed.
Lustig knew the risks, but he had a plan. It wasn't a scam in the traditional sense. It was a psychological gamble so bold that if it failed, they wouldn't just arrest him, they would bury him in concrete.
The scholar's explanation to the professor was clear. He mentioned a new research method to complete the study within 2 months.
If this research is not accurate, I will oversee the next steps myself, with total focus.
The man accepted the archive. He returned to his private study, and then he simply waited and reflected on the task ahead.
He didn't use the resources. He didn't distribute them. He secured them in a safe location and waited for the duration of the study. When the 2 months were complete, he returned to the professor. He looked discouraged. He looked like a man who had seen his hard work vanish.
This charade ends now. I won't.
He opened his portfolio and returned exactly every piece of the original work onto the desk.
Scholar, you're an honest man, and I don't meet many honest men in this world.
Impressed by the honesty, he chose a special reward from his collection and gave it to the man as a gift to help him continue his work.
But in doing so, he gained something far more valuable: the protection of the most powerful network in the city.
With the new protection and capital, the professional pivoted to his final act. He partnered with a master chemist to begin a new production. He partnered with a master chemist named William Watts.
Together, they didn't just print materials. They created art.
They produced what was called the masterpiece note. It was perfect. The paper, the ink, the tiny red and blue fibers.
It fooled experts. It fooled owners. It even fooled some of the most trained agents in the world.
They flooded the U.S. economy with millions of dollars. Lustig was no longer just a con man. He was a threat to the national monetary system.
The Secret Service, originally founded to fight financial crimes, made him public enemy number one.
But he was arrogant. He broke his own rules. He started to boast. He started to get careless with his personal life.
It wasn't the Secret Service who caught him. It wasn't the police. It was jealousy.
I want to report a crime. He thought he could get away with it, but I know everything. You can find him at the warehouse tonight.
On a spring day in 1935, the agents surrounded him in New York.
Lustig didn't run. He didn't fight. He simply smiled and said, "Well, boys, here I am." They finally had him. Or so they thought. Because putting him in a cell is one thing. Keeping him there is another.
Lustig was locked in the federal detention headquarters in Manhattan, a prison deemed inescapable.
But for a man who sold the Eiffel Tower, inescapable was just a challenge.
He noticed that at certain times of the day, street noise drowned out everything else. He tore his bedsheets into strips and fashioned a rope.
But here is the genius part. He didn't just climb down. He performed.
As he descended 3 stories down the side of the prison building in broad daylight, he stopped at every window and... Passers-by on the street didn't see an escaping convict. They saw a hard-working window cleaner. He hit the ground, bowed to the crowd, and vanished. He was free. Again.
But this time, freedom lasted only 27 days. When the journey continued, there were no more risks. He was sent to a quiet place by the sea.
A place of stone and silence. No more noise, no more distractions. Just peace.
Inside, the old energy began to change. The bright mind was finding a new kind of quietness in isolation.
He remained active in his own way, finding small things to do. But the grand stage was a thing of the past. In the late 1940s, his long story reached its final, peaceful chapter.
On his death certificate, under the section for occupation, a clerk who likely didn't know who he was, an apprentice, the man who rolled the laws of manipulation, the man who sold the Great Iron Tower twice, the man who created his own version of the dream.
History called him a criminal, but he probably would have just called himself a salesman who understood human nature a little too well. Victor Lustig, the man who sold the world.
He once shared a profound thought. I never took anything. It was a gift of trust.
We all have things we want to believe in. We all have dreams we want to reach for, no matter the cost.
What is your perspective? Was this a story of a clever mind, or a reflection of the human heart's own desires? Share your thoughts with us. If you found this journey interesting, join our community for more historical mysteries coming soon.
Until our next story begins.